Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Unpaid Interns. Austin Render here with you on Wednesday, August 26th. Thanks for bearing with us on Monday. No show. We were supposed to talk to the Washington Post's Steve Goff. Covers U.S. soccer. DC United has been with the Post since the 1980s. We were going to get to talk to him about a lot of things soccer. A national Zoom outage ended our chances of having that conversation. We will have him on next Monday, again, 10 a.m. Eastern. Reminder, as we are here right now on this Wednesday episode, we are going to start at 10 a.m. Eastern time every show from here on out. Unfortunately, we have class coming up at 11:30, so we have to get this in before that. Before we bring in our guest here today, let's go through a couple of the quick headlines of what is going on in the sports world. Lucas Giolito threw the first no-hitter of 2020, 13 strikeouts and a walk in the first no-hitter of the MLB season. Lucas Giolito and the White Sox, 18-12, looking like a playoff team for the first time in a while on the south side of Chicago. Lionel Messi is essentially out of FC Barcelona. He has announced he wants out. The question now, it's a legal battle about whether or not his contract will have to be paid by the team that will pick him up, whether he can leave for free due to a clause that he had in his contract in 2017. FC Barcelona is saying that that is void, and his agents are saying no because of the extended season. There's something that makes it work. I haven't read into all the contractual details, but I do know it sounds like Man City is leading the way, Manchester City, and they are mulling over a possible 3-year deal in Manchester City, and then sending him to their sister club in the MLS, New York City FC, could finish his career in the United States, which would be absolutely crazy to see Lionel Messi end up in the MLS. We'll see if that ends up working out, but certainly something to keep your eye on this week as Lionel Messi still tries to figure out where he is off to as he looks to be heading on his way out of FC Barcelona after yet another disappointing Champions League performance, this time letting Bayern Munich score 8 goals on them. Los Angeles Clippers win last night. Quite the answer to Luka Doncic's fantastic performance in Game 4. The Clippers win 154-111. Paul George led the way with 35, Kawhi Leonard with 32. And the Clippers take a 3-2 lead. Tonight's action, a 2-2 series. Got to remember who's playing tonight. The Lakers and the Blazers. Lakers lead that one 3-1. And then the Thunder and the Rockets tied at 2 games apiece. You can find those games both tonight, I believe, on TNT. That's pretty much it for today's headlines. Let's bring in our guest. He has joined our Zoom call. He is a former Indiana Hoosier golfer, now a member of the Fort Wayne Country Club, which is how I got to know, or my dad knows Heath pretty well. Heath Peters joining us. Heath, thanks so much for joining us.
Austin, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Happy to have you. I guess we'll start things off with a congratulations on the city championship a couple of weeks ago. He is the Fort Wayne city champion. What was that like? I mean, 9 under par. You had to certainly been feeling it for the week.
Yeah, my goal going out there was just to shoot under par each round, so I accomplished that. But it's amazing how when you the competitive spirits kick in that last round, especially, you kind of lose track of where you're at and how well you're playing, and it becomes more of a match play event, so to say. And the guys that I were playing against were fantastic. I mean, it's amazing how the level of golf has gotten so much better throughout the years, and it continues to go in that direction.
A lot of young guys, a lot of college kids in that
Yeah.
tournament. You mentioned it. What do you think is kind of contributing to the fact that golf is becoming a younger game? It feels like maybe more talent in the high school college crop.
It just seems to me like more athletes are becoming golfers. You look at some of these high schools and the level of competition and how tough it is in order to succeed at different levels of sports. I mean, I grew up in a small school, so I played 3 sports my senior year of high school, and that's unheard of to play outside anything outside of one, because you have to be so specialized. You have to do the off-season camps. You have to do all this stuff where it's becoming more of a job in high school rather than having fun. And it's a shame, I think, sometimes, because I think it burns kids out. But that's what it takes in order to be successful or to try to play at the collegiate level.
Well, let's go back to your collegiate level. You were a golfer at IU with a very talented Indiana team. You played with a guy who was a future PGA Tour player, Ryder Cup participant, Jeff Overton. What do you remember from those IU teams and how talented you guys were there for your 4 years?
Jeff is obviously a fantastic golfer, and he's a heck of a competitor. What I remember about it is just taking it all in. I mean, it was, like I said, I grew up in a town just north of Fort Wayne of 8,000 people, and to get on campus and to take it all in was a little bit of an experience. And there had been some success at the IU level, but I think that kind of our class kind of turned it around a little bit, and not necessarily turned it around, but just kind of up the competitive level. And anytime that you have somebody like Jeff there, you feed off of that. And I think that all the players on the team kind of did the same thing, to where that competition, that competitive level really steps up.
Well, 2005, your senior year, correct?
Yes.
2005, yeah.
Yep.
And I dug up an article from the IDS. They labeled you as the favorites going into Wisconsin for the Big Ten championship. You guys got second, went to the NCAAs. What do you remember from that year, and put into perspective how good that Indiana team is for a program that's kind of been a little down here in the past couple of years?
Yeah. It's the crazy part was, I think it was my sophomore year. I won the Kentucky tournament, the Kentucky Invitational, and it was amazing seeing kind of Jeff transform and play some of the best golf I've ever seen anybody play. He came out his junior year and won his first 4 invitationals right out of the gate, and and he won everything over the summer in amateur golf. And I had never seen anybody play that way. Has so much confidence, and that just kind of spilled over to the rest of us. I mean, we're trying to play catch up, and we knew that we had that ace up our sleeve. It was just a matter of us trying to contribute to that wrecking ball that he was coming out his junior year. So that just kind of fed off of each other, and like I said, it's kind of nice knowing that you have one score guaranteed every time you go out.
Oh, NCAAs, what was that like compared to any other tournament you played? Did you yourself kind of feel the pressure ramp up at all? Was there something different when you got into an NCAA tournament?
Yeah, I mean, you see teams that you don't necessarily always play with. I mean, you're seeing teams outside of just Big Ten, outside of some of the invitationals that we were accustomed to. You're seeing some bigger names, and level of talent that you would obviously increases. So there's a little bit of a pucker factor. The golf courses are set up a little tougher. The rough is always a little bit higher. You see conditions that you don't necessarily always see on normal invitational golf. So
I don't want to talk all about Jeff, but I am curious to hear like your memories of him as a college golfer. Have you kind of followed along with his career? What makes Jeff so special as a PGA Tour golfer and when he was at IU?
It's the ability to take your mind out of it. I've always thought, I mean, he always told me, he's like, Heath, you have to have a little bit of, I don't give a shit. Right. I mean, you have to be able to forget some of the bad shots and remember that, hey, you got here for a reason. It was funny. I was always joke with this with other people, is that I would play him any amount of money in a practice round. But then when we get to a tournament level, he could always just step it up, and he could just forget about, hey, what we're playing for, and be able to pull off some of those shots. It's pretty much, I think what I needed back then is probably what I use now, is just I drink a couple of beers. That shuts the brain off. It stops me thinking about, everything else that I'm worried about. And, that's where you need to be. That's what you have to do. I mean, obviously I'm not playing for millions of dollars like these guys are, but and I have that ability because I'm not a professional golfer anymore. So
Well, I think we all have that friend where we think we can take them when we're just playing on a Tuesday afternoon. And then when a tournament comes around, they blow you out of the water and you're just like, what the heck happened? What is it about tournament golf that, because I had this, I tried to play a tournament for the first time in a couple of years this summer, and I've been playing great golf and I just shut down in the tournament. I mean, what is it about tournament golf that makes things so much tougher than going out with your friends on a midweek afternoon?
It's just mindset. And I mean, you see these guys out there and the pre-shot routines that they have, and that's what they really rely on. And you can go out and you can hit thousands of range balls, but if you're not hitting range balls the right way, then all you're doing is just developing bad habits, or you're trying to tinker with stuff. And I mean, every single time that you see these guys step up there, they go through the same pre-shot routines. They step up, they do the same amount of waggles, everything, right? And they take out the scenarios, the tournaments, all that stuff, and they just focus on the shot at hand. And if you can get to that ability, I mean, you look at it, golfers will miss the cut one week and come back out and maybe finish in the top 5. What did they find in that week? They found something that gives them that confidence to go out there and say, all right, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to focus on, and play well and be able to forget about, hey, I mean, you look at Dustin Johnson, for instance. I mean, he came out after the quarantine and all that stuff. I think he missed his first cut, didn't play as well a second one, but then he built that confidence up, forgot about the past, focused on the future, and came out and shot 30 under par. I mean, just the only guy ever to probably shoot a disappointing 60. I mean, just unbelievable. And and you see some of these remarks from some of the players, like, when he's on, you just got to get out of the way. You play for second. And that's kind of how I felt, with Jeff. My teammates joked with me. I finished second at the Xavier Invitational, and some of my teammates, they said, "Hey, you got low amateur." I mean, I'm like, thanks, guys, thanks. Because I mean, I played. I shot under par every single time, finished second, and got blown out of the water. So I mean, that ability to turn your mind off, focus on the shot at hand, and not think of the one shot at a time is definitely a special talent.
Was there a moment that, or a score that you saw him shoot, or a tournament where you're like, this guy is a pro, like he is going to be a PGA Tour player?
We would. It was funny. What was it? I think we came out. It was somebody. We went back to IU. This was the old golf course, and I was a couple of years out, and I think I finally tried. I hung up the sticks from playing professionally, and we come out, and you get that little chip on your shoulder where you think, all right, let's see how good you are. And we both go out. We play in the IU course with some of our buddies, and we both fire 29 on the front side. And I'm thinking, I got this guy, and he just continues to go. He just continues, and I can remember some of the bad shots where he remembers all of his good shots. And I think we ended up, I shot 64, he shot 61, and he jokes about it. Thanks for coming. But that ability just to I saw his let's see, his junior year. He could have won on tour that year, I felt like. But you have that ability that it's hard. You can see it in certain players. You can see when under pressure, how they thrive. And that's something that you just can't teach. It's something that you either have or you don't. So.
Well, it's got to be huge to have a guy like that on your team, just because you get a score every round, but also how much did he push you to be the best version of yourself, to get better, to challenge him? I'm sure that had to have been some extra motivation to try and keep up with him.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's always, anytime that you have competitors at any sport, right? I mean, they know that by pushing you is going to make their team better, which is overall is going to be better for everyone. So there's always little comments, there's always little games, there's always little things that you say to get under each person's skin. It's like, hey, maybe you could hit a few more range balls, maybe you could have done this, maybe if you'd done that. But at the end of the day, everything came in the best light, and it was for the right purposes. But I mean, I'm sure anybody has experiences that. I mean, when we go out and pick up, play at Fort Wayne Country Club, you're always looking for games. You're always looking for something to get that competitive spirit going again. And that's what's great about golf is that even though I'm 17 years older than the guy that I played in the city tournament, I'm still competitive. So that's what I enjoy about it. And hopefully my kids will follow in the same path.
We'll talk about the IU course in a moment because I do want to talk about the transformation. But in terms of courses that you played, whether that's in college or since you've graduated, what are some of the top courses you've gotten the pleasure to play and get to walk around?
You know, from a view standpoint, we played Bandon in college. You know, the Big Ten Pac-10 Challenge. That was a lot of fun. And I think more so than anything was the family following. You know, my family followed the entire time. My brothers, my dad, my parents, my mom, everybody would come with us and make it like a vacation. So it was that family feeling. But from a history standpoint, we went out and played Pebble. I did a guys trip with one of my other teammates, Kirk Wood, who I work with now at Striker, and we did we called it the Monterey Mancation, and four of us went out there and played Spyglass, and we played Monterey Country Club, and just had an absolute blast of a time. But the history behind that, to know how many rounds have played on it, to see some of the shots that you see on TV, that was probably one of the coolest experiences.
I dug up an article, 2006. You won the PGA Northern Open with a 66 at Noble Hawk, and they quoted you as saying it was the best round you've put together on that course. Do you remember tournaments that well? Like, do you remember that round when you won that tournament?
I remember that I was in a playoff against, I think, Denny and Bill Shoemaker. And, and it's funny because I come back and I play in some of these pro members or pro-ams, these events with Chad out at Fort Wayne, and to see some of the faces again. And it's a blast. It's kind of a blast from the past. And I do remember that round. It's funny that, a lot of the events that I've won here recently. So I won a couple of amateur events down in St. Louis, obviously won the city tournament here, but a lot of these things have been in playoffs, and knock on wood, I don't think I've lost one yet. So it's fun though. I mean, it's exciting. I mean, just to step up there, knowing that you got to beat that one individual, was a blast. I think that was a lot of fun, just to be able to finish a round and to, especially going down the stretch, if you can finish the last 3 holes and not let anything slide through, maybe make a couple of birdies and finish strong. That's what I always remember the most.
It's crazy how good a memory sometimes golfers have of some of those rounds. I mean, that's 14 years ago, and I'm sure you could probably list off some of the shots you hit in that round.
Some of them. That's why I'm not playing any more of those, because I can probably remember more bad shots than I can remember good shots.
That's fair.
And I can say, well, I've hit it over there before, or I've hit it over here before.
Yep.
And that's the problem. That's the thing. Whereas I can't take my mind out of it. And some of these guys, they can remember, knocking it on the green and making eagles, where I'm like, well, I hit it in the water and then I hit the next one almost out of bounds. So I need to hit it somewhere here, and, but hey, it's been fun. I still enjoy the game more so now than I have probably in a long time.
What was your strong suit at the peak of your game, and what is it now that you rely heavily on?
Length. I can still hit it past some of these young kids, which is nice. And if I can have about 4 or 5 beers to shut my mind off on the green and make a few putts, ball striking wise, I mean, heck, when I played in the city tournament, I think my ball striking was a little bit better than both the guys that I was playing against. But their short game is so stinking good. And that's just, I don't have the time to do that anymore. If I can roll on a few putts and still keep it in play, I can compete, but it's when I'm missing greens. If I'm missing greens, I'm not getting up and down. That 100 yards and in is so stinking important. And that's where you see a lot of these players that are just phenomenal. I mean, I saw some of the wedge shots out there, some of the short game. I was like, I don't have that shot in the bag. I really don't. But, I can still hit it out there with pretty much anyone. And ball striking wise, iron play has always been a strong suit.
I played with a lot of those guys that you played against in that city growing up. And I don't know when it was, but I lost my traction in terms of that age group. They just kind of launched ahead of me. When do you remember kind of yourself being like, okay, I want to go into D1 golf. This is what I want to do. When did you feel like you had that thought process?
I think probably when I was a freshman. I was like, I'm looking at myself. I can't run or jump, so I'm not going to play basketball. I've got some decent size. I played, my two main sports were football and golf. And I was like, all right, how successful, I'm not going to be at a D1 college for football. So my best opportunity is to continue to chase this little white golf ball around. And, that was my best chance of getting a scholarship. And, that's what I wanted. I wanted to try to get my college paid for. So, and I enjoyed it. It's the one thing I love about golf is at the end of the day, there isn't anybody that you can point a finger at except for yourself. And, that's powerful. And, you don't have to rely on anybody. It's what you put into it is what you get out of it. And obviously it doesn't always go your way, but that was, I would say probably junior high, probably early on, that's what I wanted to focus on. So I got to play in a US junior am, made it to match play. So that got me some exposure. And then I played in some events down in Atlanta that I qualified for. I remember playing with JB Holmes even in high school. So, some of those guys and seeing where my game was at and seeing those guys in college and then seeing them advance through, that's kind of what made me want to focus on that. So.
Was he as slow as he is now, even in high school?
No, I don't know where he picked that up at, but it's kind of painful to watch at times, to be honest with you. I appreciate the fast golfers, it's the Brooks Koepkas, the DJs, it's see ball, hit ball, give me the distance. If you start looking too far into it, then you just start second guessing yourself. So.
From what I'm hearing, you want to crack open a beer, you want to play fast. I think we'd get along on the golf course from what I'm hearing so far. Let's talk about that IU course. What do you remember from the old course, I guess, first off, that you liked, what you thought needed to be changed, and then what are your thoughts of the new course?
The old course had good bones. I mean, it has developed trees. I mean, you have the ability to pretty much do whatever you want with that. And that's something that you can't just take a plot of land and turn into. So you could have, it had the varying undulation. So, I mean, you had different heights, rolling hills. I mean, it was beautiful land. And we always felt that, I mean, heck, there was talks of a new course when I came in there for college. And just I don't know what it was, if it was just the environmental people. I'm not positive on what it was, but we just could never get that ball across the goal line. So the old course was great. It was just it was in dire need of a revamp. And I'll tell you what, after playing it this past fall when they opened it up, it was unbelievable. It not only got a revamp, but I mean, it just got, you can see kind of where holes are at, but it's like they're going in the opposite direction, or there once was a played as a par 4, it might be a par 5 now. So you can kind of see it, but you lose track of where you're at out there on the golf course just because it covers so much ground. And we went there and we played it a tip off from the back, and it was everything you could ever want in a golf course. And I think if they can keep the shape of that course up, obviously there's a lot of ground, and keep pumping money into it to make sure that they keep the grounds up to spec, there's no doubt in my mind it could host a huge event there.
Yeah, I played the second to back. They don't even have the 8,000 tees out. So I played the championship tees. I don't think I'll ever play that far back again. That course has got some meat on it.
It does.
So I only played the old course once. So when I go around, I don't even see the old course in it. What are some of the holes that are like, okay, that kept a little bit of the old course, but just kind of made it a little better?
So like, I'm trying to think, is like 12, I believe, is either 9 or 18. I can't remember, but 12 was kind of a par 4 down the chute. You had some trees off to the right, a lot of trees down the left, and now they've turned that around and made it into this massive par 4. So I think I ripped a drive and still had a 220-yard shot in. So I mean, just the length of the course. So I mean, it still had the same structure, the same flow, except for instead of a right to left fairway, it's a left to right fairway. And you can still see it. Some of the obviously the range is where Old One was at, and obviously some of that stuff behind it. But it's amazing. I mean, you have to consciously take a look at it in order to see some of it, because you just get lost out there. The course is just so great, and I'm looking forward to playing it again here in the near future.
Well, we talked about all the young talent that's out there in the high school and the college ranks. And this is an Indiana program that I think it's fair to say has struggled over the past decade or so, getting that talent and becoming more nationally relevant like you guys were. Do you think a new course like this, something that's just kind of a fresh beginning, something as aesthetically good looking as this course is, do you think it will help attract some of the talent in the state?
Absolutely. I mean, there's no reason why IU can't bring in players. I mean, we saw it when we were playing. I mean, you have Illinois that's always good. Minnesota was good. Ohio State. A lot of these schools that are kind of in the same geography as us and same weather conditions. Michigan State. Everybody has the ability to pull in talent. So what was the thing that's really separating us was, obviously a course. I'd probably go out there on a limb and say that we had probably one of the worst courses in the Big Ten from a playing standpoint. When we got to go around and play some of these other courses, it's unbelievable just the course conditions and how that prepped you for playing tougher courses. So, I mean, we went back, I think it was a year or so ago, but I mean, the players have their own locker room now. I mean, it's unbelievable the things that they have now compared to what we had then. I mean, we had the practice facility. That was the brand new shiny toy when we first got there. You could hit shots up to 220 yards and pretty much hit any wedge shot around the greens, but you still didn't have that championship golf course to get you prepped. And then that's really that's how I grew up playing is I play golf. I'm not a big fan of just sitting out there on the range and beating balls, but I can go out and play 36 holes every day. And that's how I get better. So it's hitting shots, not necessarily just slamming range balls all day long. And I think that's kind of some of these younger players, they lose sight of that. They have these just beautiful swings. I mean, you look at them and you're just like, oh my gosh, how does this guy ever miss a shot? But you have to think, it's like, look at some of these older players that through history, their swings weren't pretty, but they could get it in the hole. And I think that when it goes south, you have to have that ability, that shot, that something that you can rely on just to get it in the hole when it's not your best. And, that's why I always enjoyed playing, is hitting shots, throw a ball under a tree and try to hit a low cut or a high draw or something. So
You segued beautifully into my next question here. That obviously this is a course, like you said, it can be tipped out to 8,000 yards. It's the game of golf is getting to where that's almost necessary at times. Do you like that? Do you like seeing all these guys like Bryson come out and just try and bomb the ball? Or do you think something needs to change? Or are we just going to accept the fact that these guys are getting better and better? They're hitting the ball further and we're just going to have to deal with it.
My big thing though is that in order to maintain some of these golf courses, right? So you've heard a number of players, I think Jack Nicklaus being one of them, saying that we got to change something, right? We can't continue to get these golf courses bigger because, the costs are going up. The cost to maintain the courses, to continue to seed, to continue to do all this stuff and fertilize, all the prices are going up. So that's why you're seeing a lot of these golf courses shut down. I know up here in Northern Indiana, I know of at least 3 off the top of my head of courses that have shut down just because they can't continue to maintain all this. I wouldn't mind it. Me personally, I love if you extend the golf course out. That's right up my alley, right? I love it. When you get on courses that are position golf, that's not my forte. But I mean, that's just me being, a little selfish. But I love it. I really do. You extend it out, you play the tips. I feel like I can shoot the same scores that I would if I moved up a couple of tees. But I think overall, for the best of the game, in order to make sure that we continue to keep golf courses open, I feel like we have to do something in order to reel that back in a little bit. And for what Bryson's doing, there's mixed reviews on it, calling him the mad scientist or whatever it might be out there. But hey, he's finding something that's working for him. And everybody's looking for a niche, looking for something. And what he's been able to do during the quarantine and transform his body and transform his ways, he's moving the ball now. Hey, tip of the cap. He's not my most favorite player to watch, but just because he's low.
I completely agree with you. Yeah, you have to give him the credit. It's not incredibly fun to watch, but you have to give him the credit. Okay, I have to get your thoughts on this because this was something unique to the Indiana team last year because the course was being built. They didn't really have a home course. So they had the practice facility, but they had to travel everywhere. They didn't have a course at home to play. How difficult would that be, especially for someone like you? Because I relate to you. Like, I don't like sitting on the range and pounding balls. I like to go out there on the course and play. How tough do you think it was for those guys last year to just not even have a course?
It definitely doesn't help because, there's, I don't know, you can get a range player that never misses the ball, and then you get somebody that can play the game. And, you have Bloomington Country Club, which is a good track out there. But it's not a championship golf course. It's not something that they're going to see during an invitational. It doesn't have the same length. It's got great greens, but it's definitely something that I would say was a speed bump. For them, for the players, just to have that ability to go out there and play. But hey, everybody has obstacles to overcome, and I wouldn't necessarily say that if there's a will, there's a way. So if they can always find time. Players are supposed to be done by 2 p.m. with as late that as it gets dark out. I mean, you can find ways to get out to the golf course if you want to. It's just that you might not have the equal playing ground to some of these players that at other campuses where they have championship golf courses at their disposal. So.
Okay, my dad would be mad if I didn't bring this up. I don't know if you remember last year. It's like, I think it was the league championship. You subbed against him and you beat him, and I think he's still salty about it to this day. Do you remember, and do you feel bad about kicking my dad's butt in a league championship as a sub?
You know, as many times as I might have done it, there's definitely a chance that people do it the same thing to me. That's golf.
Doesn't it suck to be a low handicap in some of those sometimes? Because like you go up against like an 18 handicap and they make a par and they beat you.
Well, it was funny because I'm going up to Minneapolis, flying out tomorrow, and it's 8 guys total, and we're doing like a small like Ryder Cup style. So I have 3 guys on my team. My buddy's got 3 guys on his team, and we're gonna do matchups. And it was funny because after I won the city tournament, my buddy sends me a message because my wife posted on Instagram, and he's like, "You better enter those damn scores before we go to this trip." And I'm like, so my handicap went from a 1.5 to like a plus 1.9. So I'm like, oh, so I'm out here like trying to, tell Chad, I'm like, hey, Chad, just don't enter scores up until after that. I go, you can enter them after. I'm like, just don't enter them until I go on this trip. But they all
you being a 1.5, I don't buy it. I don't buy it even before the city.
I got hot there for about 3 weeks, and it was funny because one of the guys was asking me, he's like, so how often do you play golf? And I'm like, Thursday night leagues. And he's like, what?
Yeah.
And he's like, you don't play on the weekends? Or I'm like, well, I got 3 kids, so it's kind of tough to get out there on the weekends and say I'm going to be gone for 5 hours. So
that's fair.
He just kind of looked at me and smiled. I'm like, hey, have a beer, hop in the cart, let's go. It's just different, and I enjoy it a little bit more now. So,
all right, the stereotypical golf question here: how many hole-in-ones do you have? And for my curiosity, which ones have you holed out on at Fort Wayne Country Club?
I have not holed out anything.
Okay.
No. I have 2 hole-in-ones though, 2 double eagles.
Collegiately or post or before college?
No, nothing in college. One was in a tournament though. Double eagle was in a tournament. And nothing of importance. But
okay. Nothing too crazy.
Nothing too crazy.
Enjoy your Ryder Cup thing. That sounds like a blast. I used to do that with 16 buds when we were in high school. Always loved doing that. So enjoyed that. Thanks so much for coming on the show here with us. We appreciate you talking some golf, and best of luck to you. Congratulations again on the city championship.
Thanks for having me on. Have a good rest of the day.
Yeah, thanks, Heath. Talk to you later. That was Heath Peters, a former Indiana golfer, played on the 02 to 05 teams with the Indiana golf team and with a future Ryder Cupper, Jeff Overton. That team was loaded. They ended up making it to the NCAA tournament in 2005. Huge thanks to Heath for jumping on our show today. A reminder that we are available at all times. Even if you didn't get to watch us live, you can always go back and watch on the IU Sports Media YouTube page. Pretty easy to find. Just Google the IU Sports Media YouTube and it'll come up, and you'll find all of our episodes of Unpaid Interns there on the dashboard. You can also find us wherever you listen to podcasts, whether that's through Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Breaker Podcasts. You can find us there. under Unpaid Interns. Huge thanks to everyone who's made this summer go so far as we start classes. It kind of feels like we're starting a new season of Unpaid Interns. We're 41 episodes in, and super thankful for Dr. Galen Clavio for getting us started. He's kind of the producer, the grand producer. I produce the show, but Dr. Clavio gives us the chance to produce it. So huge thank you to him. Thank you to Tamar and Griffin and Connor for helping co-host. You'll see them periodically. Everybody's starting to get a little more busy with their schedules and with other things going on. So they'll be popping in here and there. Might be a majority of me hosting the show, though, for this semester. Huge thank you to them, and huge thank you to the 60 plus guests that we've had on our show so far this year. Might even be 70 plus. Huge thank you. You all know who you are. If I listed you all now, we'd be here until 11 o'clock, and it's only 10:36. So, but I do want to say thank you to all of those great people. Some really, really fun stories and guests. And again, you don't have to just sit here and wonder what they said and be like, oh man, I missed the episode with Zach Kiefer. Or, oh man, I missed the episode with Will Sheehy. You can go back and listen or watch them at your leisure whenever you want to. They're available where I just said a few minutes ago, YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. So huge thank you to everyone who's made this work. We'll be back on Friday, 10 a.m. again. Reminder, that's where we are sticking. 10 a.m. start time Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We'll get things going again on Friday at 10 a.m. Until then, thanks to Heath Peters for jumping on with us today. I'm Austin Render saying so long for today's Unpaid Interns. We'll see you on Friday.